The galaxy was burning, and Earth was watching. Commander Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her desk. Red dots marked dead worlds. Yellow showed active battlefields. Blue indicated refugee movements. The colors painted a picture of chaos across 1,000 star systems. "Ma'am, the Zephyrian ambassador is here," her aide announced. Chen nodded and straightened her uniform. 3 months ago, she had been a simple naval officer. Now she commanded Earth's newly formed Planetary Defense Council, trying to navigate humanity's first contact with galactic civilization. The problem was that galactic civilization was tearing itself apart. The door slid open, and Ambassador Veltar entered. The Zephyrian looked like a tall, elegant bird made of crystal and light. Its voice sang like wind chimes when it spoke. "Commander Chen, thank you for seeing me. Please sit." Chen gestured to a specially designed chair. "Though I think I know why you're here. The war grows worse each day. The Kethavar have deployed new weapons. Entire star systems are going dark. We need allies." Chen had heard this before, first from the Talnari Empire, with their scaled warriors and promises of glorious conquest. Then from the Kethavar hegemony, whose insect-like soldiers spoke of order through strength. Now the Zephyrians, the galaxy's self-proclaimed peacekeepers, wanted Earth's help too. "What exactly are you asking for?" Chen said. "Your military perspective. Humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. Your tactics are creative." Chen almost smiled. Creative was a polite way to describe humanity's brutal efficiency in warfare. The aliens had studied Earth's military history with fascination and horror. They could not understand how humans had survived so many wars without destroying themselves. In exchange, we offer technology. Energy weapons that could make your ships match ours, shields that could protect your worlds, medical advances that could extend human life by centuries. It was a generous offer. Earth's technology was primitive compared to galactic standards. Human ships still used chemical rockets and nuclear weapons while the aliens fought with energy beams that could crack planets. "I need to discuss this with our leadership," Chen said. "Of course, but please do not take too long. Every day we delay, millions die." After the ambassador left, Chen walked to the observation deck. Earth looked peaceful from here, a blue marble, floating in space. Hard to believe that a war involving trillions of beings was raging just a few light years away. President Martinez found her there an hour later. The elderly man had been thrust into the role of humanity's voice to the galaxy. A former teacher, he brought a scholar's perspective to impossible decisions. "The Zephyrians made their pitch?" he asked. "Same as the others. Help us fight, and we'll give you the stars." "And what do you think?" Chen was quiet for a moment. "I think they're all going to lose." "What do you mean?" "I've been studying their war. All three sides use the same basic strategies. Big fleets, frontal assaults, honor codes that make them predictable. They're not trying to win anymore. They're just trying not to lose." Martinez nodded slowly. "Like our world wars. Everyone so focused on the fighting that they forgot what they were fighting for." "Exactly. The Kethavar want to bring order by force. The Talnari want to conquer everything. The Zephyrians want peace but will destroy anyone who disagrees. They're all making the same mistake. Which is, they think war is about winning battles. But war is about achieving goals, and their goals are impossible." The next day, Earth's leaders made their decision. Representatives from all three galactic powers gathered in the UN building in New York. The room buzzed with tension, as alien translators worked to convert dozens of languages into something everyone could understand. President Martinez stood at the podium. Behind him, the flags of Earth's nations hung beside humanity's new symbol, a blue circle representing their home world. "We have heard your offers," Martinez began. "We have seen your weapons, your fleets, your promises of victory. We have also seen the results of your war." The alien delegates shifted in their seats. Some looked hopeful, others seemed annoyed. "Earth chooses neutrality." The room erupted in angry sounds, chirps, growls, and mechanical clicks as the aliens protested in their native languages. General Caxtu of the Kethavar stood up. His insect-like body towered over the podium. "You do not understand, humans. There is no neutrality in this war. You are either with us or against us." "No," Martinez replied calmly. "We choose a third option. We will provide humanitarian aid to refugees from all sides. We will offer medical assistance to the wounded. We will help evacuate civilians from war zones, but we will not pick up weapons and add to the killing. Ambassador Veltar's crystalline form flickered with agitation. You are making a mistake. The Kethvar will not show mercy to neutrals. The Talnari will see you as weak, added Warsinger Draknor, his scaled face twisted in disgust. Weakness invites attack. Martinez looked at each alien delegate in turn. Perhaps, but we have studied war for thousands of years. We know that sometimes the only way to win is not to play. General Caxtu clicked his mandibles in what might have been laughter. These humans will learn the price of weakness soon enough. The meeting ended badly. The Talnari delegation stormed out, muttering about cowards. The Zephyrians left with disappointed songs. Only the Kethvar remained calm, making notes on their datapads as if cataloging a new form of stupidity. But within weeks, Earth's true strategy became clear. Human ships appeared throughout the galaxy, not as warships but as rescue vessels. They carried medical supplies to devastated worlds. They evacuated civilians from battle zones. They set up refugee camps on abandoned moons and asteroids. Captain James Harrison commanded one such ship, the medical frigate Mercy. His crew worked around the clock, pulling survivors from wrecked ships and burning cities. They saved Zephyrians, Talnari, and Kethvar alike, asking no questions about which side they had fought for. Harrison watched from his bridge as they approached Proxima Station, humanity's largest refugee camp. Thousands of alien civilians lived there now, fed and housed by human aid workers. They came from dozens of species, united only by their desire to escape the war. Captain, we're picking up a large fleet on sensors, his navigation officer reported. Harrison's blood ran cold as he saw the display. 50 Kethvar dreadnoughts were approaching a nearby moon where Talnari civilians had taken shelter. The moon had no military value. It was just home to 10 million refugees. They're charging weapons, his tactical officer said quietly. Harrison could only watch as the Kethvar fleet opened fire. The moon's surface turned to glass in seconds. 10 million lives ended in a flash of light. His communications officer, a young woman named Park, was crying. How do we stop something like that? Harrison's jaw tightened as he watched the Kethvar ships move on to their next target. Around the galaxy, the war was getting worse. Planet-killing weapons were becoming common. Entire species were being wiped out for strategic advantage. We learn, he said finally. We prepare. And we pray they never notice us. But even as Earth maintained its official neutrality, changes were happening. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked in secret laboratories, studying alien technology recovered from battlefields. Colonel Marcus Webb trained rescue workers who could fight in any environment. Admiral Chen expanded Earth's merchant marine with ships that looked like cargo haulers but carried hidden weapons. Earth was still neutral, but Earth was no longer helpless. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity was learning lessons that the galaxy's great powers had forgotten. They were learning that the greatest strength sometimes came from appearing weak, that the best warriors were those who chose their battles carefully. Most importantly, they were learning that sometimes the only way to end a war was to be ready to fight it. The galaxy burned on, unaware that its salvation might come from the small blue world that refused to choose sides. Earth stayed out of the Galactic War, watching and waiting and preparing for the day when the war would come to them. That day was coming sooner than anyone expected. 5 years had passed since Earth chose neutrality, and the galaxy had forgotten about humanity. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked alone in her laboratory beneath Luna Base. Around her, holographic displays showed the inner workings of alien weapons systems, Kethvar plasma rifles, Zephyrian energy shields, Talnari antimatter warheads, all of it salvaged from the countless battlefields where humans went to save lives. Computer, run simulation 712, she said. The display showed a human ship firing a weapon that looked nothing like what the galaxy's powers used. Where alien weapons were elegant and efficient, the human design was brutal and simple. It worked by overloading enemy shields with rapid pulses instead of trying to punch through them with brute force. Simulation successful. Estimated effectiveness against Kethvar shields 93%. Elena smiled grimly. It had taken her team 3 years to figure out how to build this weapon. The aliens had been using the same shield technology for centuries. They had never considered that someone might attack the shields themselves instead of trying to break through them. Her assistant, Dr. Kim, entered the lab carrying another piece of salvage technology. This came in from the Perseus sector. Medical. Ship picked it up from a destroyed Talnari cruiser. Elena examined the device. It looked like a crystal cube, but her scanners showed it was much more complex. What does it do? Near as we can tell, it's a tactical computer. Processes battlefield data and suggests strategies. Can we crack it? Already did. Turns out the Talnari use very simple encryption. They never expected anyone to be smart enough to break their codes. Elena laughed. The galaxy's great powers had become so used to fighting each other that they had stopped innovating. They used the same weapons, the same tactics, the same strategies their ancestors had used for thousands of years. It made them predictable, and predictable enemies were dead enemies. Across the solar system on Mars, Colonel Marcus Webb was teaching the same lesson to a very different group of students. The official name was the Volunteer Rescue Corps, but everyone called them the Ghost Battalion. Listen up, Webb said to the 200 humans gathered in the training facility. Today we're learning zero-gravity combat. Why? Because every species in the galaxy fights the same way in space. They try to create artificial gravity and fight like they're on a planet. He activated a hologram showing a typical alien boarding action. HFY soldiers moved in neat formations, down a ship's corridors, their magnetic boots keeping them on the deck. They think in terms of up and down even in space. They cluster together for mutual support. They advance along predictable routes. Webb's smile was cold. In zero-G, we don't have those limitations. The training that followed would have horrified the galaxy's military leaders. Humans learned to fight while floating freely, using the ship's walls and ceiling as cover. They practiced moving in 3 dimensions, attacking from angles that ground-based thinking could not imagine. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, no relation to the doctor, pushed off from the ceiling to land behind a simulated enemy position. Her training, weapon-fired paint rounds that marked her targets as dead. Good, Webb said. But you're still thinking too much like a human. Remember, most alien species can only see in a narrow arc in front of them. Their eyes don't move like ours do. Use that. The exercise continued. By the end, the human team had wiped out twice their number of simulated aliens without losing a single soldier. This is why we train, Webb said. Not because we want to fight, but because when fighting comes to us, we'll be ready. Meanwhile, in the outer solar system, Admiral Chen was conducting her own form of preparation. Her merchant marine had grown to over 400 ships, all disguised as civilian vessels. Cargo haulers that could deploy fighter squadrons. Medical. Frigates with hidden missile launchers. Survey ships that could map enemy fleet movements. Admiral, we have a visitor, her aide announced. Chen looked at the display. A Talnari patrol cruiser had dropped out of hyperspace near one of her convoys. The alien ship was massive compared to the human vessels, its hull decorated with the scars of a dozen battles. This is War Captain Grektar of the Talnari 3rd Fleet, came the transmission. State your business in this system. Chen's convoy commander, Captain Lisa Park, responded calmly. This is Captain Park of the Earth Medical Service. We're transporting supplies to the refugee station at Kepler 442. More human ambulances, Grektar said with obvious disdain. At least you're good for something. The Talnari ship moved on without inspecting the human vessels. If it had, Grektar might have noticed that the medical supplies included enough weapons to outfit a small army, or that the ambulances had engine signatures that matched some of the fastest ships in the galaxy. But he didn't look. Nobody did. Humanity had become invisible, the galaxy's janitors who cleaned up after everyone else's messes. This suited Earth perfectly. In the depths of space, human listening posts tracked the war's progress. The conflict had escalated beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. New weapons appeared monthly. The Zephyrians had developed viruses that could reprogram enemy computers. The Kethvar used nanomachines that ate enemy armor. The Talnari had learned to weaponize black holes. Billions died every month. Entire star systems were declared uninhabitable. Ancient civilizations vanished overnight. President Martinez, now in his 2nd term, met with Earth's military leaders in a secure bunker beneath Geneva. The weight of 5 years had aged him greatly, but his resolve remained strong. How long before they destroy themselves completely? He asked. General Harrison, formerly Captain Harrison, pulled up strategic displays. At current rates of escalation, maybe 2 years before galactic civilization collapses entirely, and if they notice us before then, Dr. Vasquez spoke up. We're as ready as we can be. Our technology is at least equal to theirs, and our tactics are better, but we're still just one world against 3 empires. 400 worlds, Admiral. Chen corrected. Don't forget our allies. She was right. Earth's humanitarian missions had made friends across the galaxy. Not governments, those were too committed to the war, but individuals. Ship captains who had seen too much killing, scientists who remembered what they were fighting for, refugees who had lost everything to the war. They formed a hidden network, passing information to human agents, providing safe passage for human ships, sometimes even sabotaging their own side's war efforts. They called themselves the Silent Alliance, and their numbers grew every day. Commander Webb's successor, Colonel Adams, had been training them. Small groups of aliens learning human tactics, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Zephyrian resistance cell on Rigel Prime has secured a weapons depot, Adams reported. The Kethvar dissidents in the Vega system have agreed to disable their sector's early warning network if needed. Even some Talinari are getting tired of the killing. It wasn't enough to win a galactic war, but it might be enough to survive. 1. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Captain Park, now commanding Deep Space Reconnaissance, detected strange energy readings from the galactic core. Something new was happening in Kethvar space, something that made her ship's instruments scream warnings. "Get me Dr. Vasquez," she ordered. When Elena saw the readings, her face went pale. This is impossible. These energy levels. They're trying to tear holes in space-time itself. For what? I don't know. But if they succeed, it could affect the entire galaxy. The news reached Earth's leadership within hours. In their secure bunker, President Martinez stared at projections that showed the potential consequences of whatever the Kethvar were building. "Worst-case scenario?" he asked. "The destruction of everything," Elena said quietly. "Not just life, but matter itself. They could unravel the fabric of reality." The room fell silent. Earth's neutrality was based on the assumption that the galaxy's powers would eventually exhaust themselves and seek peace. But this changed everything. "How long do we have?" Martinez asked. "Based on these readings? Maybe 6 months before they test it. A year before they deploy it." Admiral Chen leaned forward. "Mr. President, our neutrality has served us well. But if the Kethvar succeed with this weapon, there won't be a galaxy left to be neutral in." Martinez looked around the room at the faces of humanity's defenders. Each one showed the same grim determination that had carried Earth through 5 years of careful preparation. "Continue our current operations," he said finally. "But begin preparing for the possibility that our neutrality may not be enough." In the months that followed, Earth's preparations intensified. Hidden factories worked around the clock. Training, exercises became more frequent and more realistic. The Silent Alliance was activated, ready to provide intelligence and support. But outwardly, nothing changed. Human ships still carried medical supplies and refugees. Human diplomats still preached neutrality and peace. The galaxy's powers still dismissed Earth as irrelevant. They had no idea that humanity was preparing for the war to end all wars. A war that would determine not just who ruled the galaxy, but whether the galaxy would continue to exist at all. The enemy was coming, though they didn't know it yet. And when they arrived at Earth's door, they would find that humanity had spent 5 years learning how to fight a war they never wanted. The galaxy died in silence. Captain Lisa Park watched from the bridge of her deep space monitoring ship as another star system went dark on her sensors. That made 17 this month. Not destroyed by conventional weapons, but simply erased as if they had never existed. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission," her communications officer reported. "It's from the Andromeda sector." Park nodded grimly. These final messages had become routine over the past few weeks. Desperate civilizations sending their last words before the darkness took them. The hologram flickered to life, showing a Zephyrian commander whose crystal form was cracked and dim. "This is Admiral Trendar of the 5th Defense Fleet. The Void engine has reached our position. Our worlds are gone. Not destroyed. Gone. As if they never were." Static filled the transmission for a moment. "If anyone receives this, know that the Kethvar have become something worse than conquerors. They have become erasers of existence itself. May the spirits preserve us all." The transmission cut to nothing. Park turned to her tactical officer. "How many systems have gone dark this week?" 43, confirmed Captain. "But we're not getting signals from anywhere in the former Zephyrian territory. It could be hundreds." The Void engine. Earth scientists still didn't fully understand how it worked, only that it somehow removed matter from reality completely. No explosions, no debris, no radiation. Just nothing where entire worlds used to be. The war had finally reached its logical conclusion. The HFY hegemony had created a weapon that didn't just defeat enemies, it deleted them. Set course for Earth, Park ordered. Maximum speed. Command needs to see this. Light years away, in what had been the heart of Talinari space, two old enemies worked together for the first time in centuries. War singer Draknor, his scales now gray with age and stress, stood beside Ambassador Veltar, in the ruins of a joint command center. How many ships do we have left? Draknor asked. Veltar's song was barely a whisper. Perhaps 3,000 between our fleets. The HFY have 20 times that number. Then we are already dead. Not yet. Veltar activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Vast areas were now blank, showing where the void engine had passed. But we cannot stop them alone. Draknor's laugh was bitter. The mighty Zephyrians, asking for help from their ancient enemies? I am asking for help from the only beings who might have an answer. The humans? Draknor's expression shifted from anger to confusion. They have no fleet, no weapons. They are healers, not warriors. Are they? Veltar pulled up intelligence reports from the past 5 years. Their medical ships have engine signatures that match our fastest cruisers. Their rescue workers have training that would impress our special forces. Their refugee camps have defensive networks that could stop a fleet. Draknor studied the data. You think they have been preparing for war? I think they never stopped fighting it. They just chose their battlefield more carefully than we did. On Earth, the emergency session of the Planetary Defense Council had been running for 18 hours straight. Admiral Chen stood before a holographic display that showed the galaxy's death in real time. Red areas marked systems confirmed destroyed by the void engine. Gray areas showed regions where all communication had ceased. The Zephyrian and Talinari fleets are regrouping at Arcturus, she reported. Combined, they might delay the HFY, advance by a few weeks, but they can't stop it. General Harrison leaned forward in his chair. What about our Silent Alliance contacts? Most have gone dark. The ones still reporting say the same thing. The HFY aren't taking prisoners anymore. They're not even bothering to conquer systems. They just erase them and move on. President Thompson Martinez's successor looked older than his 60 years. The burden of leading humanity through its first galactic crisis had taken its toll. Dr. Vasquez, can we stop this void engine? Elena looked up from her datapad, exhaustion clear on her face. We've analyzed every sensor reading, every piece of debris from affected systems. The technology is beyond anything we've seen. It manipulates space-time at the quantum level. That's not what I asked. Can we stop it? Elena was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. If we could get close enough to study it directly, we might find a weakness, but that would mean war, Thompson finished. The room fell silent. For 7 years, Earth had maintained strict neutrality. They had saved millions of lives, provided hope to a galaxy tearing itself apart, and built a network of allies who believed in something better than endless conflict. But neutrality only worked when there was something to be neutral about. The HFY weren't interested in conquest anymore. They were interested in making themselves the only living beings in the galaxy. Admiral Chen spoke carefully. Mr. President, we estimate the void engine will reach human space within 3 months. Our outer colonies will be the first targets. And if we fight, we have advantages they don't expect. Our technology is equal to theirs. Our tactics are better, and we have the element of surprise. But they still outnumber us 20-1, General Harrison added. The Silent Alliance would support us, but most of their forces are scattered or destroyed. We'd be facing the HFY mostly alone. Thompson walked to the window overlooking Earth's blue surface. Somewhere down there, 8 billion humans lived their lives in peace, unaware that their existence might end in the next few months. We swore we would never choose sides in this war, he said quietly. The war chose us, sir, Admiral Chen replied. The moment they pointed that weapon at our worlds, before Thompson could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Captain Park's ship had just arrived at Earth, broadcasting emergency signals. Mr. President, the communications officer announced, we have incoming transmissions from the Arcturus system. It's the Zephyrian-Talnari Alliance. Ambassador Veltar's image appeared in the center of the room, flickering with interference from the vast distance. Leaders of Earth, the crystal being sang, we know of your neutrality, and we have respected it, but neutrality has no meaning when existence itself is threatened. The HFY are coming for you next. Their scouts are already in your outer systems. The transmission was interrupted by static, then resumed. We do not ask you to save us. We ask you to save yourselves, and in doing so, perhaps save what remains of galactic civilization. You are our last hope. You see war differently than we do. You understand what we have forgotten. The transmission ended just as Captain Park's intelligence data reached the command center. Long-range sensors had detected massive hyperspace signatures moving toward Sol system. 3,000 HFY ships, led by the dreadnought that carried the Void engine itself. How long do we have? Thompson asked. 72 hours until they reach the outer system, Park reported. Sir, there's something else. The lead ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple and final. Attention, primitive species of Sol 3. Your neutrality was amusing but is no longer useful. You will submit to incorporation into the hegemony, or you will be erased. You have 1 solar day to respond. Thompson looked around the room at the faces of Earth's defenders. These were the people who had spent 7 years preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Now that war was at their doorstep. Admiral Chen, he said finally, how quickly can we mobilize our forces? The fleet is already moving to intercept positions. Dr. Vasquez's weapons are installed and ready. General Harrison's ground forces are preparing for boarding actions. We can be in full battle formation within 6 hours. And our allies? Every Silent Alliance cell that's still operational is reporting for duty. We're getting volunteers from species we've never even heard of. Word is spreading that humanity is finally taking a stand. Thompson nodded slowly. The decision that Earth's leaders had dreaded for 7 years was finally here. But looking at the determination on every face around him, he realized something important. They were ready. Admiral, you have permission to engage. Show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens Earth. Chen's smile was cold as starlight. Yes, sir. Mr. President, I suggest you might want to address the planet. People should know what's happening. 2 hours later, President Thompson stood before cameras that would broadcast his words to 8 billion humans, and whatever remained, of galactic civilization. My fellow humans and our friends among the stars, he began. For 7 years we have maintained peace while the galaxy burned around us. We chose healing over harming, neutrality over conquest, hope over hate. But some enemies cannot be reasoned with, only stopped. He paused, looking directly into the camera. The HFY hegemony has chosen to bring their war to our door. They demand our surrender or our annihilation. We give them neither. Instead, we give them something they have forgotten how to face. Humanity united in defense of everything we hold dear. Across human space, fleet commanders received their final orders. The masquerade was over. Earth's merchant marine dropped their disguises and revealed weapons that would have made the galaxy's greatest powers jealous. The volunteer corps boarded ships designed for the kind of warfare the aliens had never imagined. And in the darkness between stars, humanity prepared to show the galaxy what 7 years of careful preparation could accomplish. The enemy had come to Earth's door. Supreme Commander Zekthar of the HFY hegemony stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Voidbringer. Behind him, 3,000 ships moved in perfect formation toward the small yellow star humans called Sol. This would be the easiest conquest. In his long career, his tactical officer, a younger HFY with bright green carapace, clicked his mandibles nervously. Commander, our scouts report no significant military presence in the human system. A few hundred primitive vessels, mostly concentrated around their homeworld. As expected, Zekthar replied. Humans are cowards. They spent 7 years hiding behind neutrality while greater species fought for the galaxy's future. Through the viewports he could see human ships in the distance, small, ugly things that looked more like cargo containers than warships. Their hulls were gray and functional, lacking the elegant curves of HFY design or the artistic beauty of Zephyrian vessels. Should we demand surrender again? The tactical officer asked. Zekthar's mandibles clicked in amusement. Why waste time? Begin the advance. We'll erase their outer worlds first, let them watch their colonies disappear. Then they'll beg for mercy. The HFY fleet moved forward in their traditional formation, massive dreadnoughts in the center, surrounded by cruiser wings with destroyer screens protecting the flanks. It was a formation that had conquered 100 worlds, refined over centuries of warfare. They expected the humans to scatter. Instead, something impossible happened. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the command chair of the Earth Shield, humanity's new flagship. Around her, tactical displays showed the approaching HFY fleet in perfect detail. 7 years of preparation had led to this moment. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her communications officer announced. "Excellent. Open a channel to the enemy flagship." The view screen flickered, showing Supreme Commander Zekthar in his full ceremonial armor. The Kethvar leader's expression showed contempt and boredom. "Human, you will surrender your worlds or watch them burn." Chen's voice was calm, almost conversational. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You came to our door threatening erasure. We invite you to try." Before Zekthar could respond, the human fleet dropped their disguises. What the Kethvar had seen as 600 cargo ships suddenly revealed themselves as warships unlike anything in the galaxy. Their hulls split open to reveal weapon arrays. Hidden engines flared to life. Stealth systems that had kept entire fleets invisible shut down to show the true size of humanity's forces. "Impossible," Zekthar whispered. "Our intelligence showed they had no military fleet." His tactical officer was frantically updating the displays. "Sir, I'm reading over 600 combat vessels. Their energy signatures, they're not using standard galactic technology." Chen's voice came across the comm channel again. "You want to know what makes humans different from other species? We learn from our mistakes. And we learned from yours too." The Battle of Sol began with a move that no galactic power had ever attempted. Instead of advancing to meet the enemy, the human fleet scattered in all directions. "They're running," Zekthar declared. "Pursue and destroy them." But the humans weren't running. They were positioning. Commander Marcus Webb, now leading the first assault group, smiled as his ship Ghost Strike slipped through the Kethvar formation. His vessel looked like a destroyer but moved like a fighter, dancing between enemy ships too fast for their weapons to track. "This is Ghost Leader to all units. Remember your training. They think in formations. We think in individuals." The human attack began from 12 different directions at once. Small groups of ships struck at weak points in the Kethvar formation, then vanished before return fire could find them. They used the enemy's size against them, forcing the massive dreadnoughts to fire through their own formation. On the Voidbringer, alarms were screaming. "Report," Zekthar demanded. "We've lost 30 ships in the last 10 minutes. His tactical officer replied. "The humans are using some kind of stealth technology. They appear, attack, then vanish. Stealth won't save them. Activate the void engine." But as the Kethvar's ultimate weapon began charging, something went wrong. Human ships that had seemed to be fleeing suddenly turned around and charged straight at the flagship. Captain Lisa Park, commanding the assault cruiser Determination, led the attack on the Voidbringer. Her ship was smaller than a Kethvar destroyer, but it moved like lightning and hit like thunder. "Target their engine core," she ordered. Dr. Vasquez was right about the weak point. Elena's analysis had been perfect. The Void engine required enormous amounts of power, which meant vulnerable conduits throughout the ship. Human weapons designed to overload systems rather than punch through armor found those conduits with surgical precision. "Void engine offline," Park's tactical officer reported. "We've severed their power network." But the real shock came when Zekthar tried to retreat. As Kethvar ships turned to flee, they discovered human vessels already waiting at every hyperspace. "Exit point, how is this possible?" Zekthar demanded. "We never transmitted our retreat coordinates." His intelligence officer's voice was shaking. "Sir, they've been watching us for years. They know our fleet movements, our protocols, our escape routes." Admiral Chen's voice came across all frequencies. "You thought we were neutral. We were studying. Every battle you fought, every tactic you used, every weakness you showed, we were learning." The systematic destruction of the Kethvar fleet that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships appeared where they were needed, vanished when threatened, and struck with precision that seemed supernatural. Commander Webb led a boarding party onto a Kethvar battle cruiser. His soldiers moved through the alien ship like ghosts, using tactics the enemy couldn't comprehend. They had studied Kethvar psychology for years, knew exactly which symbols to deface, which crew members to target, how to maximize fear and confusion. The alien crew used to honorable combat between fleets had never faced an enemy that fought inside their own ships. They broke completely. "This is impossible," one Kethvar officer transmitted before his ship was captured. "Humans are supposed to be weak." "We are weak," Webb replied as his soldiers secured the ship's bridge. "That's why we learned to fight smart." "Supreme Commander." Zekthar watched his fleet die around him. In 6 hours, humanity had destroyed or captured 80% of his forces. The survivors were scattered across 3 star systems, being hunted down by human ships that seemed to anticipate their every move. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 of our remaining ships. They want to know if the humans will accept prisoners." Zekthar's mandibles clicked with rage and despair. "And their response?" "The humans say they will treat prisoners according to galactic law, better than we treated theirs." It was the final humiliation. The species they had dismissed as cowards were showing them mercy they had never offered their own enemies. As the Voidbringer limped toward hyperspace with its few remaining escorts, Zekthar made one last attempt to salvage victory. He activated his personal communications system and sent a message to every Kethvar fleet in the galaxy. "All forces, converge on Sol System. The humans have revealed themselves. Bring everything we have. I don't care if it takes 1,000 ships. Erase this system from existence," but Admiral Chen had anticipated this too. As Kethvar fleets across the galaxy turned toward Earth, they found human ships waiting for them. Not cargo haulers this time, but purpose-built warships carrying weapons the aliens had never imagined. Captain Park, now commanding a task force, in the Vega system intercepted a Kethvar fleet of 200 ships. "This is Captain Park of the Terran Navy. Surrender now and you'll be treated fairly. Continue your attack, and you'll share the fate of your Supreme Commander's forces." The Kethvar fleet commander's response was predictable. "You are outnumbered. We will crush you." "You're right," Park admitted. "You do outnumber us. But you're fighting the last war. We're fighting the next one." What followed was less a battle than a demonstration. Human ships moved in patterns the Kethvar couldn't predict, used weapons they couldn't counter, and employed tactics they couldn't comprehend. When it was over, 170 Kethvar ships had been destroyed or captured. The remainder fled in disorder, broadcasting warnings about humanity's impossible capabilities. Similar scenes played out across a dozen star systems. The Kethvar had spent centuries learning to fight other galactic powers. They had no idea how to fight an enemy that had learned to fight them. Within a week, the Kethvar hegemony's military was effectively destroyed, not by superior numbers or more powerful weapons, but by humanity's ultimate advantage, the ability to learn and adapt. In his private chambers aboard the crippled Voidbringer, Supreme Commander Zekthar composed his final report to the hegemony's ruling council. "The humans were never neutral," he wrote. "They were preparing. While we fought each other, they studied us. While we remained static, they evolved. We thought we were bringing war to a weak species. Instead, we awakened something the galaxy has never seen before." He paused, his mandibles clicking slowly. "The humans don't just fight to win. They fight to end wars. And they've just ended ours." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, President Thompson stood before the rebuilt United Nations building in New York. But his audience was no longer just human. Delegates from 47 different species filled the Great Hall, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of sounds that human translators worked to convert into meaning. "Friends," Thompson began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as survivors of a war that nearly destroyed us all." In the front row sat the former enemies who had become unlikely allies. Warsinger Draknor of the Talnari, his scales now bearing scars from the final battles against the Kethvar. Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrians, whose crystalline form had regained some of its former brightness. Even former Supreme Commander Zekthar, now a prisoner who had chosen cooperation over execution. "Earth will not rule the galaxy," Thompson continued. "We have no desire for empire, but we will not allow the mistakes of the past to be repeated." The applause that followed came from dozens of different species, each expressing approval in their own way. Clicks, chirps, harmonic tones, and electromagnetic pulses filled the air. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's first galactic coordinator, approached the podium as Thompson stepped aside. "The Terran peacekeeping force is not an army of conquest," she announced. "It is a guarantee, a promise that no single power will ever again threaten to erase entire civilizations from existence." The changes had been swift and dramatic. Human fleets now patrolled the major trade routes, their ships bearing the symbol of Earth alongside flags representing every species in their new alliance. Former enemies worked together on reconstruction projects, guided by human engineers who had spent years studying galactic technology. On Mars, the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy had become the most sought-after military training facility in known space. General Webb, now the Academy's commander, watched as his newest class practiced combat maneuvers. HFY warriors learned to fight alongside Zephyrian strategists. Talnari shock troops trained with human marines. Remember, Webb told the mixed group of cadets, your enemy is not each other. Your enemy is war itself. The lesson was one humanity had learned through bitter experience. Every human military officer studied Earth's own history of conflict, from ancient tribal warfare to the nuclear standoffs that had nearly destroyed their world. They understood that the greatest victory was not defeating your enemy, but finding a way to end the fighting. Captain Lisa Park, now commanding the exploration vessel New Horizons, discovered the true scope of the galaxy's devastation as her ship surveyed former battlefields. Entire star systems had been reduced to debris fields. Worlds that had supported billions now hosted only automated distress beacons. Captain, her science officer reported, we're detecting life signs on the third planet. Weak, but definitely there. Park ordered an away team to investigate. What they found was a group of Zephyrian refugees who had been hiding in underground shelters for months, afraid to emerge because they didn't know the war was over. The HFY are gone? The eldest refugee asked in disbelief when Park's translator explained the situation. Yes, Park replied gently. The war is over. You're safe now. The refugee's crystalline form began to sing, a beautiful, haunting melody that spoke of hope returning after endless darkness. Soon the other survivors joined in, their combined voices creating a symphony of relief and joy. It was a scene that played out across hundreds of worlds as human rescue ships found survivors who had given up hope. Each discovery reinforced humanity's commitment to their new role as the galaxy's protectors. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now heading the Galactic Reconstruction Council, worked with scientists from dozens of species to repair the damage left by 7 years of total war. Her greatest challenge was the worlds affected by the Void Engine, areas where matter itself had been erased from existence. Theoretical physics suggests it might be possible to restore what was lost, she explained to a council meeting. If we can map the quantum signatures of the erased matter, we might be able to reverse the process. Might? Asked Dr. Krental, a Zephyrian physicist whose homeworld had been one of the engine's victims. The energy requirements would be enormous. It would take the combined resources of every surviving civilization. And even then, we're talking about decades of work. Then we begin today, said Draknor. The old Talnari warrior had become one of humanity's most unexpected supporters. My people lost 17 worlds to that cursed weapon. If there's even a chance to bring them back. The vote was unanimous. The Restoration Project became the largest scientific undertaking in galactic history, uniting former enemies in a common cause greater than any war they had fought. But humanity's greatest challenge wasn't technological. It was political. Many species still harbored resentments from the war. Old territorial disputes threatened to reignite conflicts. Some groups wanted revenge against their former enemies. President Thompson found himself mediating disputes that had roots stretching back thousands of years. The Rigel Confederation wanted the Andromedans to pay reparations for wartime atrocities. 3 different species claimed ownership of the Vega system. The remnants of the HFY military demanded that their prisoners of war be returned. Everyone wants justice, Thompson told Chen during one of their private meetings, but they all define it differently. That's why they need us, Chen replied. We're the only power that doesn't have a stake in their old conflicts. We can be objective. Can we? How long before we become just another empire, imposing our will on others? It was a question that haunted Earth's leadership. Power corrupted and absolute power corrupted absolutely. History was full of liberators who became tyrants. The answer came from an unexpected source. Zekthar, the former HFY commander, had spent months studying human history as part of his rehabilitation. He requested a private meeting with Earth's leaders. You fear becoming like us, he said, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. But you have something we never did. Which is? Thompson asked. You remember what it's like to be weak. The HFY ruled for so long that we forgot we were once a small species struggling to survive. The Zephyrians became so focused on peace that they forgot the cost of war. The Talnari grew so proud of their strength that they couldn't imagine defeat. Zekthar gestured toward the window, where Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. But you nearly destroyed yourselves with your own wars. You remember what failure looks like? That memory will keep you honest. His words proved prophetic. When the Centauri Mining Consortium tried to exploit their alliance with Earth to seize territory from the Tau Ceti colonies, Humanity sided with the colonies despite the economic benefits of supporting the consortium. When a group of human corporations attempted to claim exclusive rights to salvaged HFY technology, Earth's government immediately classified the technology as a shared galactic resource. "We're not here to get rich or powerful," Admiral Chen announced to the corporate council. "We're here to make sure the galaxy never again comes close to destroying itself." The true test came 18 months after the war's end, when long-range sensors detected something that chilled every observer: ships approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Not refugee vessels or exploration craft, but a massive fleet of unknown design moving toward inhabited systems. Captain Park, now commanding the Deep Space Monitoring Station Vigil, was the first to detect them. Her analysis showed thousands of vessels using technology unlike anything in known space. "Admiral," she reported to Chen, "these aren't from our galaxy. We're looking at an extragalactic invasion force." The news sent shockwaves through the recovering galactic community. They had barely survived one war of extinction. Now they faced another, potentially worse threat. But something had changed in the years since humanity's intervention. Instead of fragmenting into competing factions, the galaxy's survivors looked to Earth for leadership. "What do we do?" asked Draknor during an emergency council session. Chen looked around the room at the faces of beings who had once been bitter enemies. Kethavar, Zephyrians, Talnari, and dozens of smaller species all waiting for humanity's decision. "We stand together," she said simply. "We've learned that divided, we nearly destroyed ourselves. United, we might just survive whatever's coming." The preparation that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Species that had fought each other for millennia worked side by side to build defenses. Human tactics were adapted to alien capabilities. Kethavar engineering was combined with Zephyrian creativity and Talnari determination. When the extragalactic fleet finally reached the galaxy's edge, they found something their intelligence had not prepared them for: a united galaxy under human leadership, ready to defend their home with everything they had learned from their own destructive past. The final message came from the approaching fleet's commander, transmitted in a language that required weeks to translate. "Greetings, inhabitants of Galaxy 47 Alpha, we are the Harvesters. Your galaxy shows signs of advanced civilization. Submit to harvest protocols and your suffering will be brief." Admiral Chen's response was broadcast on every frequency in known space. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Galactic Defense Force.